Hello, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Accelerating Growth Across the R&D Value Chain Using Integrated Innovation Partners, presented by Syngene and Fierce Pharma. I'm Kelly Hogan, conference producer at Fierce Life Sciences, and I'll be your moderator for today. Before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping items. In just a moment, you'll meet our panelists, but you may also learn more about each of them using the Speaker Bios panel on your screen. Similarly, I encourage each of you to explore the Handouts panel for more information about Syngene's offerings. If one of those panels does close, simply click the name in the top navigation bar to reopen it. And this webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand within 24 hours. Finally, there will be time for a few audience questions at the end of the session. If you do have any questions for our speakers, please enter them in the Submit Questions panel at any time. Now, moving ahead with some introductions, I'd like to welcome our speakers to share a little bit about themselves. Kenneth, Barr, why don't we start with you?
Sure, thank you. So I've been in pharma and biotech now for just over 30 years. Most of my career in the United States on the pharma side and some smaller startup companies. But about almost 7 years ago, I moved to Bangalore, India to become part of the leadership team of Syngene. And during that time, we've been focused on building out the capabilities of the organization, working more on an integrated approach to drug discovery on behalf of our clients. And I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kenneth. Catherine Tucker.
Hi there, delighted to join the discussion today. I head up strategy and corporate development for research services within Syngene. I've been in the industry for well over 25 years, really sort of driving forward innovation and developing and commercializing drugs right the way from target ideation through drug discovery, through development, through to commercialization. So I've seen that real, true end-to-end spectrum. And then certainly the sort of latter part of my career, I've very much been focused in the deal space, in the business development space, driving forward M&A, licensing deals, and key strategic collaborations to drive forward innovation. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today. It's a very, very much a subject matter close to my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And Kush, Parmar.
Thanks so much for having me today. I'm Kush Parmar, a managing partner at 5AM Ventures, a longstanding biotech venture capital firm that's been around for around 23 years, having built over 120 biotech companies, generally at the earliest stages, across virtually every therapeutic area you can imagine, virtually every modality and technology modality that you can imagine as well. We've had the privilege of actually being a part of the journey that has led to over 20 FDA approvals from those companies as well. And I'm really excited to be talking about the topic we're discussing today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to all three of you for being here. Let's begin with our content. Our first question, what are the key points that different types of clients are considering when evaluating integrated innovation partners versus the more traditional functional service providers? How do these differences show up in program outcomes or investor perception? Kenneth, let's start with you.
Sure, thank you. So I think it is important to make the distinction that the different stakeholders, say at a pharma company or an emerging biotech, or even a venture firm or within academic groups in the bioaccelerator space, would be focused on the priorities that they have and the way they would choose to engage with their providers. So historically, what we've seen is that until recently in the pharma industry, it was very much about outsourcing technical execution. And the internal experts within the pharma company generally held on to the project leadership and the specific decisions around which molecules should be made, not necessarily how they would be made. More recently, that's fallen to the CROs, which assays should be run, how they should be validated, et cetera. What we've seen historically is that emerging biopharma oftentimes tends to have a smaller crew that may be more collaborative and looking to share more of that responsibility with the outside. And certainly in venture, where we can be partners to help groups move a portfolio of companies forward, there's a variety of ways to operate. But what we've seen more recently, even in the pharma space, is that organizations are recognizing that oftentimes today CROs are starting to internalize much more of the expertise and the context required to conduct a drug discovery program. So I would say what clients are looking for today oftentimes is, first of all, a fully integrated provider means that you can go all the way from the beginning stages of drug discovery, so target identification and validation and hit identification, through optimization to the candidate, and oftentimes even preclinical evaluation and on into the clinic. And today, and I think Kush mentioned this during his introduction, it's very helpful to work with an organization that is multimodality. So if not entirely modality agnostic, at least has the ability to bring to the table not only small molecule research, but the biologics, so monospecific, trispecific, bispecific, trispecific antibodies. Today, there's a lot of interest in conjugates such as ADCs, both for oncology and non-oncology indications, and a lot of work in induced proximity, so PROTACs, molecular glues. If you work with an organization that has all of these things or most of these things that they can bring to the table across the value chain from early discovery through to the candidate and beyond, it provides the clients with a lot more flexibility. And I'd say across the spectrum, this is becoming more and more of interest.
Thank you very much. Kush, anything you'd like to add from your perspective?
Sure. I'll just say that we are in a time, not just in this moment, but in a point in this era where many stakeholders, from pharma to biotech to the academic, medical, and research institutions, are going through a very significant pressures. One being, of course, we talked a little bit about the commercial model, and certainly we have some geopolitics that are going on as well, and just the cost of getting to medicines to patients. And at the same time, we have also just an incredible growth of fundamental insights of what drives disease. We have an incredible growth of the toolkit of modalities to address those increasingly clear drivers of disease that can really transform patient outcomes. And so how do we really reinvent and remodel our industry with a sense of urgency, given these two forces that are underway? And I do think that in times of potentially limitless capital that our industry did have for a brief period of time, that kind of setting lends itself to our industry doing things the way they're comfortable historically doing. But it's actually the environment that we're in that really compels us to really look for far more innovative models that allow us to really leapfrog and make a step change and a necessary step change in the efficiency, in the velocity, and in the quality of going from these ideas to advancing medicines that are really going to be make a difference for patients. And I think that's where these kinds of models that are a bit more truly integrated, true partnerships, that is the way forward, because I think it is not a piecemeal execution. It is about really going in a bold direction towards a true step change in efficiency and timeliness to get these medicines. And I think this is a really powerful model. Academic medical centers, they are dealing with limitations in some of the grant funding, as we've talked about, especially in the United States currently. And so bridging that gap between early foundational science to the kind of data packages that are really important for us investors. And I sit on some of these committees of leading academic medical centers and some grant mechanisms to get those data packages so that early science can get fundable and commercialized by true venture capital. That's a really important solution that set that they are looking for, and it has to be done in a truly integrated way from my perspective. VCs building companies, the whole model of how you build and operate a company today isn't how we used to think about it even 5 years ago. And so these kinds of conversations open up new vistas into the kinds of operating models for companies being lean and highly efficient and more leveraged with savvy thoughtful partnerships. That's the basis of what we're thinking about within the venture and company building ecosystem. And pharma obviously are looking for real enterprise solutions, really wholesale solutions. And that's where scale really matters. Obviously, Syngene, who I know extremely well, brings that kind of scale and breadth, and that's really attractive actually for all kinds of stakeholders, but certainly for pharma that need, of course, have very broad pipelines and need absolute versatility as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for making those distinctions. And a great segue into our next question. What does a high-performing integrated partnership look like in practice? Kush, you touched on this a little bit. So yeah, great segue. But how do sponsors maintain strategic oversight while still empowering an integrated team to drive execution? Catherine, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely, and it's a very good question. And I think fundamentally it's about both the, integrated innovation partner and client partner working teams really very much being mutually aligned and working hand in hand together. It's about each party understanding the role and the expectations of each other and delivering seamlessly as an integrated team. Now, the trick here is to communicate expectations openly and transparently, really from the very beginning of the collaboration and throughout, and listening and adjusting accordingly in real time. And then in answer to your question about strategic oversight, we work with a whole range of different clients, and the governance structure for each of those individual bespoke collaborations can be tailored pending the client partner preference. We have some clients that want to maintain a much more involved hands-on oversight with much more iterative project updates. And then we have other clients that prefer a much more arm's length externalized approach. And both approaches are fine. And we can very much tailor the collaboration governance structure and oversight accordingly, really sort of aligned with the partner's needs. So it's really about, listening, being engaged, and having a very joined up approach, a very integrated approach with our collaboration partners.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, at what point in a company's journey should a client consider bringing an integrated innovation partner into the fold? What milestones, red flags, or resource limitations signal that it's time to expand beyond in-house capabilities? Kush?
Well, I'll just start big picture. I think right now, for existing companies that are in the early stages of development, companies that are about to be formed, companies that are about to be funded, even before one is thinking about how to build that company, one is actually asking that hard question: what absolutely needs to be in-house within this company, and what doesn't? If you have the right partnerships, you don't need to be building that out in-house. So it is almost actually, even during the diligence of evaluating a new opportunity as an investor, I would say we're asking these questions. What is the best use of proceeds? And savvy partnerships can really deliver much greater success. And so for early companies as well, I do think some of the benefits of even exploring these IIP kinds of structures is actually you learn a lot. You get a lot of input, even having that conversation as well about what this could look like. And it actually gives companies and investors some good options to be entertaining of either going down a substantial fixed cost approach, which, and building a company here in Boston with a lot of square footage and fixed costs, or a model like this that can be far more leveraged. So I would say it's at the beginning, at inception, and the earlier, the better. For the academic medical centers, because I do spend, quite a bit of time with them. I know Syngene spends time with them as well. These are academic medical centers oftentimes that have portfolios across a wide range and a pretty kind of an evergreen set of projects that are coming up across different modalities and different therapeutic areas. And I do think that at an enterprise level, there's some great efficiencies for academic medical institutions that are really looking for a solution set to be able to deliver the data packages that are beyond the standard academic data packages. And I think those often are starting with some new biological insight. And from my perspective, and Kenneth, Catherine can expand on this, oftentimes we're looking for a tool molecule to really prove the therapeutic and pharmacologic thesis that is generated from that fundamental biological underpinning that often comes out of the academic setting as well. So again, very, very early overall. And actually, I think that conversation with an expert partner brings you a lot of sort of downstream thinking as well of what do we need to be thinking about, not just over the next couple of months, but a couple of years from now for this program to be successful.
Excellent. Thank you. Kenneth, anything to add?
Yeah, sure, I will. I think Kush phrased it very well. There are a few things I could probably add to that. One, what's really critical today is for the given stage in that discovery into development process, do the people inside the organization have a sufficient volume of both the experience and the context? And more, what we're seeing, especially in smaller companies or these early startup ventures even coming out of academia, is that they're choosing to build in a core group of experienced scientists and leaders, but they want to increasingly rely on folks that they can depend on with their outside partner. And what's critical there in order for that to be successful is that within the partners, whether it's Syngene or somebody else, but we've worked very hard to build this into Syngene, is to have scientist leaders for leading and driving the projects, writing the project plans, that have experience in the industry so that they have the context. It's more than top-notch technical execution. That's a given. That's a requirement. But it's how to understand the way to put the designs and the experiments into the greater context of getting to a therapeutic that's going to make sense when it gets to the patient. So for early stage ventures, like Kush was saying, folks coming right up through the academic community where they have interesting assets or novel biological targets, or maybe they're working on a novel technology, they're working side by side with people who have years of experience in the industry and have even evaluated these early stage companies for potential partnerships in pharma, can oftentimes help to define what is the data set that describes that key value inflection point that would make it very interesting to a funding partner, whether that be venture or a pharma company. In that context, Syngene has built what we refer to as the connector model, where we try to partner with academic institutions, go in early, talk to the PIs and the groups that are doing the research, and help them think through what is going to make the most sense, the shortest path, that's also hopefully the least expensive, but builds in all the right components to get to that significant funding event. Another thing I've noticed is that many of the companies we work with today, if they're working in small molecule therapeutics, are oftentimes not onboarding chemistry internally. They're making all of that externalized. They may hire one experienced medicinal chemist to help in molecular design, but if they want to run a portfolio of programs, it's very difficult for one medicinal chemist to oversee 5, 6, 7 projects. So again, working with a partner that has the type of experience that more than just making the molecules can help to design the molecules is really, really helpful. So depending on the stage that the client is at, whether they're early stage or later, makes a big difference about when to engage. But I think it really comes down to those core skill sets that are going to be most helpful, whether it's an early discovery, lead optimization, or even preclinical evaluation.
Thank you so much. Now, for some companies, selecting the right partner can feel like a gamble. So what advice do you have for prospective collaboration partners, perhaps some audience members who are listening in and evaluating potential integrated innovation partners? What are the key indicators of a strategic alignment or risk? Catherine, this question's for you.
Oh, thank you. And I think that echoes nicely what Kenneth's just articulated. It really is about both parties aligning around the science, aligning around the understanding the opportunities, the challenges and the considerations for the project that are really going to get you to that, sort of key value inflection point and beyond, taking this, really sort of driving forward innovation through to delivering something meaningful for the patient. It's about building that mutual understanding of what's required and building that alignment, but fundamentally building a trusted relationship. And I think the starting point for that is always the science. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, what are the most critical elements to ensure strategic alignment between biotech companies and their integrated development partners that directly impact speed to IND or improve acceptance rates? And in follow-up to that, what metrics should biotech teams be tracking to measure the CRDMO impact? Kush?
I think this is a hugely important question. Thank you for asking it. The most critical thing here is clearly there's a mindset difference with this kind of relationship versus a just fee for service in terms of delivering on certain tasks. This is much more about a trusted, integrated partnership and relationship, a codependency almost in terms of intellectual engagement and contributions, and a feeling, a very strong feeling and sentiment of accountability and importance of a solution, of a solution that's going to be delivered. And I think that's a little bit of very, very important to actually establish a relationship on a really good footing with that in mind. And that, I would say, requires, of course, in addition to that sentiment, concreteness. So concreteness of what the plan is and being aligned on the rationale, the technicalities, where things can go wrong, what the challenges are going to be, what one needs to stay really, really close to, and over communicate around those things. So really a very, very clear alignment of a plan where both parties are truly bought in, both weighing in on that plan. The second thing is along the way, now once one is executing, really a very, very healthy amount of communication, as one would expect with a highly integrated team. It's not a set it and forget it kind of engagement. This is an integrated team, like one would be communicating with your team down the hallway in your own labs, right? So that very, very regular communication and cadence and setup, I think, is critical here as well. And because you all know, for successive programs, it is those micro adjustments, it is those real-time analysis of data to be always developing and moving forward a program that's critical. That's how it happens organically. That's how this should be working as well. And then the last piece, I think, which is, these are all important things as one enters a formalized relationship, as well as to have really clear milestones that are along the way. So one isn't, starting out with something and, 2 years later, you're checking in, seeing how's this going. There are checkpoints along the way that you set out well ahead of time in that clearly defined plan that both parties have agreed to. Check in on those milestones. Those should be milestones that are aligned based on not just execution and delivering on science, but also value creation for the startup or the pharma or the academic medical institution as well. And those kinds of milestones, both parties should be understanding and expressing and communicating the importance of that to the mission of the sponsor here, right? This milestone is going to allow us to potentially speak to investors, for example, about this kind of data set along the way. And that's going to help this relationship, it's going to help this program and support the mission of whoever's sponsoring the work as well.
Great answer. Thank you so much. Kenneth, anything that you have to add to that answer?
I agree very much with what Kush has said. There's just a couple of things that I could probably add to build on that. So when these relationships are first starting, there's going to be a period of trust building, and there's always going to be bumps along the road. But as Kush alluded to, that clear, transparent communication is going to be so important. And I would say real-time communication, facilitating that is also very important. In addition, many clients, if they're looking in the West, may be outsourcing to Asia, to India or China, where there are some significant cultural differences. So even though people are using the same English, they may actually be meaning two different things. So it takes some time for the groups, the scientists on either side, to really understand how to collaborate together. So we need to build some of that in. I agree with Kush. Clear objectives, project plans with detailed milestones and timelines, and knowing that accountability is going to be critical. Some of the tools that we found are very effective in terms of facilitating that is online tools that both teams can access, both to track the progress of the project, but also in terms of real-time communication, securely federating, say, like Microsoft Teams or a Google communication platform, as long as it fits within the secure requirements of your data and your communication, can be really, really impactful, even versus just sending emails. Because oftentimes people are working in very different time zones. But a quick message that comes across in Teams and can be responded to instantly via the laptop or the phone can oftentimes make a difference in whether or not the problem is solved today or tomorrow. And then I would just say finally that a good governance structure where everybody is very clear on who is accountable, but also what is the rhythm of that governance going to be. So project team meetings, depending on, again, how close or how distant the sponsor wants the relationship to be, could be every week or second week or once a month. There's oftentimes a joint steering committee that looks at operational issues periodically, and you need to decide what's the frequency of that. And then at least a couple of times a year, there's going to be some type of oversight, executive governance, to make sure that the collaboration is not only on track today, but everybody's clear on where it's headed tomorrow.
Great, thank you. And we've looked at kind of theoretically best practice, but Kenneth, specific to Syngene, what tools or frameworks does Syngene provide to ensure real-time visibility into program performance? And how do those capabilities help sponsors make faster data-driven decisions?
Sure. And as I was just alluding to, a lot of that comes down to real-time communication. So making sure that we know exactly how we're going to do that and do that securely. For the clients that are interested, we generate either weekly or fortnightly reports so they can see what's happening in real time. We give them access to our electronic notebooks, and all of our scientists are on electronic notebooks, or we can use their platform so they can track what's happening in real time. Of course, we're using secure data rooms in order to transfer data. We don't send anything by email, but then the other platform that we've developed, and this one is specific to Syngene, it's something we've developed in-house, is a collaboration platform that we call Sarchitect, as an SAR, Structure Activity Relationship, Sarchitect. And I would describe it as a bit of a combination between something like PerkinElmer Spotfire for data analysis and visualization, and there's also some predictive tools built in there, but also a bit like Schrodinger's Live Design, where the scientists can go on and they can post the structures of the molecules that they're thinking about making, have some back and forth, and again, with those predictive tools, align on those that make the most sense, leverage tools that we have in terms of doing the best AI-driven retrosynthetic analysis and which synthetic routes are most likely to proceed quickly. And then once there's alignment on the molecules to be made, tracking from ideation to synthesis to characterization, all the way through to the data generation that leads to the next cycle in the DMTA process. Those are tools that we offer directly to our clients as part of the collaboration. And I think it makes a huge difference for those that take advantage of those tools.
Fascinating, thank you. And how does Syngene approach flexibility in scope, resource allocation, and risk sharing to support the evolving needs of these early stage biotechs aiming to hit inflection points to drive valuation? Kenneth, we'll stay with you.
Okay, sure. So one of the things that we think is really critical there is understanding what the client needs and the priorities are. So some of our clients are early in their process, and again, in today's environment, may be very cash conservative because they don't have a lot of extra to play with. So we want to help them define that critical path to the next value inflection point, and they tend to be more concerned with their spend than with their speed because they know they have to get it right. Other clients are very well funded. This could be a biotech or an emerging pharma that's come through a recent successful funding event, or a major pharma company that has a substantial research budget. But there, oftentimes, the focus is on speed. So we want to make sure that we've aligned very well to what their concerns and their objectives are, and then design the project plan in a way that honors that as much as possible. Hopefully that answers the question for you, but I'm sure both Catherine and Kush would have something to
add. Thank you. Well then, Catherine, Kenneth brought up the idea of funding, and I want to bring this question over to you. We often hear that integrated partners can make a program more monetizable. Can you unpack what that means in practice and what aspects of a de-risked, well-supported program actually move the needle for VCs or acquirers?
I mean, that's a good question, and there are several considerations. So it can be more monetizable in the sense that an integrated innovation partner can inject a more objective, impartial strategic input and really set the high bar for what good looks like from a discovery, development, commercialization process, and really anchor that to success-based milestones to make sure that that high bar is delivered, and really layering in, as Kenneth articulated and Kush a little bit earlier, about layering in that end-to-end strategic expertise to really drive forward and maximize the value of the asset or the portfolio. Another aspect in terms of more monetizable is in the sense that an integrated innovation partner such as Syngene can execute with greater capital efficiency and deliver value inflection across a broader number of shots on goal for a pipeline progress. And this resonates across our broad client base ecosystem. So whether you're a large pharma looking to drive capital efficiency across your portfolio, a VC, as Kush was articulating earlier, looking to maximize funding across a broad portfolio of companies to really translate that value into a return on investment, or a small biotech or an academic partner that's looking to maximize its cash runway to build a data package that delivers value inflection for investors in an expedient and cost-efficient manner. These are all aspects of how we think about, what's monetizable, and it's really about anchoring value and how you take that innovation forward in a very capital-efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Kush, we couldn't talk about fundable programs without including your perspective. So how do you assess whether a partnership model delivers operational leverage and capital efficiency that translates into a compelling investor narrative and higher company valuation?
Well, I think that is the reason I'm very excited to be discussing this kind of model. As I mentioned at the very beginning, in an environment where there are some growth challenges as an industry overall, some cost challenges as an industry overall, despite tremendous scientific potential. Right now, there's just a huge urgency to think about use of proceeds, efficiencies, in a creative and bold way. And investor capital, as you might imagine, is going to be, in an environment like this, extremely focused and extremely scrutinizing on how that capital is being used. Is it on a huge 10-year lease of a massive footprint here, or is it on really advancing that medicine and that program to a value inflection point in the most robust but also parsimonious way possible? And I think that actually speaks for itself when these models are laid out. It should be a very important part of the rationale for prosecuting such a partnership like this as well, where one is actually really laser focused on resources going directly towards a solution, which is value creating, advancing a program, and not towards a lot of other things as well. Which our industry, I've been in this industry for a good amount of time, and not every resource is going really specifically towards that. And so I think it will speak for itself in terms of the amount of capital needed to advance programs, and it can be, if done right, very compelling and very clear.
Thank you. Kenneth, anything to add to this point?
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, I would say that we've talked in general terms around value inflection, but just to get a little more specific about that. So most people if you've been involved in a startup company, an early venture, you'll recognize the fact that the farther you take a potential asset forward towards the patient or even to the patient, the greater the value becomes, because you're actually increasing the probability of clinical success and thereby de-risking. And so if you get to what we would say for a small molecule program, lead op entry, where you would have a PK/PD relationship and a relevant animal model, that comes with its own value inflection point where you might get some early investors who'd like to come in once they've seen that. Although I would say in today's funding environment, that's probably less likely than it used to be. Getting to a qualified clinical candidate with GLP tox data takes you to the next level. And then by the time you've got an RP2D, or you've gotten through your phase 1 and you've demonstrated proof of concept, say like in an oncology model, then things go way up in terms of confidence. So one of the things that we talk about at Syngene is the 4 points of our compass are speed, cost, risk, and innovation. And if we have a way of managing those factors, speed, cost, risk, and innovation, as a partner with the client, as opposed to a more simple transactional service provider, we think we can help them design the value inflection point that's going to make the most sense for them in terms of the probability of success, plus what they're able to invest, where they're going to take their risk, and how we can help them to innovate to get there. I think that's where it really makes the difference, working with the more traditional service provider and an IIP.
Thank you very much. We do have just a couple questions left. I just want to take a time here to encourage the audience. We will be moving into some Q&A, so please be sure to use that submit Q&A button to send in your questions for the remaining time. But for our last couple questions, how have you seen integrated development partnerships help companies build credibility in the eyes of potential investors or pharma partners? Any examples where a strategic partner played a key role in funding or M&A outcomes? I'd like all 3 panelists to share their thoughts on this. Let's begin with Catherine.
Thank you. And this, I'm going to echo some of what Kenneth just said, and certainly somebody that's been on both the buy side and the sell side for both product licensing and M&A. I can assure you that having a coherent strategic plan that has been thoroughly thought through, right across to, drug discovery, development through to commercialization, to get to that value inflection point, something that's translatable and tangible from an investment perspective, very much resonates with the investors and also acquiring pharma companies. So being able to articulate the value proposition for opportunity, how are you going to get there, the timelines, what it's going to cost to get there, really provides a tangible value story for investors and also large pharma, if that's your ultimate exit point, really aiding the decision making around the opportunity. In other words, it facilitates getting the deal done, which is very much paramount to how we very much execute to drive innovation forward in the business models that we all work with. Kenneth and Kush, anything you want to add to that?
Sure. I mean, the way I see it is that, once these examples become clear, it becomes very obvious that these kinds of partnerships can be wildly successful and beneficial. We've talked, across maybe there's 2 ways to think about it. I would say, very simplistically, there's many more ways. One is partnerships that advance you to clinical data really efficiently. So we've seen examples of certain investigator-initiated trial type relationships that have kind of really leveraged certain companies to get to early clinical data in a far more leveraged, efficient way. And that data gives you a proof point that really enables financings. And in this case, earlier this year, we've even seen a pharma M&A as a result. And I think that's happened a couple of times now. So that just starts to open up, one's imagination of, wow, if you can really strike these collaborations in the right way, you can get yourself very capital efficiently to proof points that can engender the right interest from investors and also from partners and acquirers as well. On the preclinical side of things, it's no different. The idea is that one can, again, get there in really a step change in efficiencies to get to proof points preclinically that lead to similar value creating milestones, whether it's through partnerships and financing events. And I've seen this particularly through the lens of some very early stage companies, but also through academic institutions. I sit on a couple of committees that are really providing grants, primarily translational type grants, private grants to very promising science and academic institutions that are trying to bridge to the key data sets for them to then be financeable. And I've seen those really, call it killer data sets, if you will, that are well informed, they're translationally relevant, and done well through these kinds of partnerships have led to the right financing outcomes for this really high potential science as well.
Kenneth, anything to add?
I think both Catherine and Kush put that very well. So I support everything they said. I think that's good.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, as the pace of drug development accelerates, how would you like to see CRDMOs evolve their operational capabilities to deliver greater value to sponsor companies over the next few years? And for this question, I'd like to lead off with Catherine.
Oh, I think I'm going to give Kenneth the last word on this one. Over to you, Kenneth.
Okay, sure. So this is an area where I'm particularly excited about. I think Catherine understands that. So the future, which is really starting yesterday, it's effective leveraging of robotics, automation, and more AI, but well-trained AI that's been trained on suitable data. And you can envision a scenario. So if we're going back to target identification and validation, right? How are we leveraging the algorithms and AI to be able to help us identify the best pathways and targets that are going to be relevant for the patient population? And we do have tools to do that at Syngene. But as important or more, when we start to move into the DMTA cycles, design, make, test, analyze cycles, that are going to take us from the hit all the way through to the candidate and make sure that that lead compound is going to be relevant to get into the clinic, into the patient with the right tolerated dose, and you understand what that's going to be. That's where it really makes the most sense. So if I could just paint for you a picture of what it looks like to fully automate the DMTA cycle, this is a reality that we are building now. So it starts with an algorithm that is able to take all of the data associated with the project that we're advancing so far, multi-parameter optimization or MPO algorithm, looks collectively across the data and helps to design molecules that are going to make the most sense for balance of properties that would be able to advance the clinic. So it's not just about efficacy and also selectivity, but all of the properties are going to help you to get there. So with that, even before the first human takes a look at that, the medicinal chemist evaluates that list of compounds, you can have a second algorithm come in and do a full retrosynthetic analysis to decide how would you construct these, and then where in the world would you source those materials from. So Syngene is based operationally in India. What we have in our own stores and what we can secure within India, purchase from suppliers, we're going to get within 24 hours. If we need to order from the United States, it will take just a little bit longer than that. And if we have to order starting materials, say from China, it will take a little bit longer still. So can we select the retrosynthetic analysis that not only has high synthetic feasibility going forward, but also we can get to as fast as possible based on the materials available to us. And with an algorithm that's effectively trained, you should be able to think through that over multiple analogs to help you decide where to answer the question. That's the first place where I think the medicinal chemist should step in. Are we making the right decisions now with the right tools? And then as you're moving that molecule forward, the first step in the data analysis, after you've generated the molecule, did you make the right compound and you put it into the biological assays, and you can very quickly do a rapid assessment in terms of checking the IC50s, EC50s, then the human comes to check and make sure that's true. And then it goes right back into the algorithm again. The more steps in that process we can leverage robotics and automation for, the more steps in that process we can leverage algorithms for, and AI, the faster that DMTA cycle is going to turn. But not only that, the less DMTA cycles you should need to get the desired outcome because you're making better decisions. So again, it's kind of a long answer to a short question, but it's one that I'm very passionate about.
And your enthusiasm is shared through the screen. So thank you so much for for sharing that with us. And what a great way to kind of end on our panel discussion portion of the session. We now have a bit of time here in our remaining minutes to talk about some audience questions that have come in. So thank you, panelists, for contributing to that great discussion so far. And let's dive in to a few more audience submitted ones. First question, how important is a modality agnostic approach to developing therapeutics with respect to specific biological targets? And how should that be considered when clients are considered the right IIP to engage with, or when clients are considering the right integrated innovation partner to engage with? Kenneth?
Yeah, so I would say in 2025, that's critical. To be able to think through what are the most appropriate modalities to answer the question at hand. So if you're back at target identification and validation at that stage, it may be that you can make part of your process not only genetic validation, which we at Syngene can do both in vitro and in vivo, but you might decide that a tool antibody is the fastest way to get to what you're looking for, or you might decide that you need to get all the way through to some type of small molecule pharmacology. But then knowing the nature of the target, where it sits, how you're going to have to address it, what the potential toxicity concerns may be due to off targets or even on targets, that should also help you think through what is the best modality. And then, of course, the tractability of the target is going to make a big difference as well. So for us, the fact that we've spent the last several years investing to be able to work across the varied modalities is really critical. And I would say for anybody who's listening to this, whether you choose to work with our organization or not, when making that choice, I think that's going to be critical for you.
Thank you, Kenneth. Kush, any thoughts on this question as well?
I would just reiterate what Kenneth said. I think what I would add is, as you think about, we've touched on this fact that working with the right partner is very important as you think downstream, especially if you're a smaller company or an academic institution as well, or a pharma as well. You don't want to be limited and constrained with what you go generate your data with and what you advance with, because the question will be asked in this world that we live in with the incredible breadth of tools that one has as an industry to deploy against any given target, to say, why did you pick that modality? Why did you pick that approach? You don't want the answer to be, well, that's what we had, right? It should be really a deliberate, the best technology, the best approach for that target as a deliberate choice and decision, as opposed to driven by a limitation.
Thank you. Next question. Where the more traditional way that pharma clients engage with CROs is often more directive, i.e., make these molecules, run these assays, how do you recommend fostering an atmosphere of true collaboration and avoid any sense of competition between the pharma scientists and the CRO/IIP counterparts? Catherine, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, as somebody that spent their entire career developing and commercializing drugs, it's an interesting question, and having led lots of multidisciplinary cross-functional teams and what have you, you almost need to think about, sort of evolving a true collaboration almost as an seeing the, integrated innovation partner or the CRO almost as an extension of your internal team. They are there to provide additional, strategic sort of candor, but also help you provide more bandwidth so you can execute in a more sort of efficient, capital efficient, be that way, and really drive, that pipeline portfolio approach. So it should never be seen as a competition. That's certainly the wrong word. It's very much about really aligning around a common goal in terms of what you're trying to achieve with a particular asset or across a portfolio, and really working as a seamless team to execute flawlessly in a very sort of broad collaborative manner. So I think it really is about, seeing that external, CRO integrated innovation partner as an extension to enable, innovation to go forward in a very efficient manner to get to value inflection.
Thank you, Catherine. Next question. Are there potential benefits to taking a portfolio approach to external innovation over a per project approach? Kush, would you like to take this question?
Sure, I think absolutely. I'm an investor. We think about this all the time, and portfolio construction overall. And in this case, I actually think through an operating lens, we really like to see this with our companies engaging in strategic relationships. Um, you may think, okay, well that there's a extra degree of concentration, but actually, I actually think the whole point of doing this is to benefit from the strategic relationship, the efficiencies that you gain from it, and they're exponentially increased, those efficiencies, if you have a portfolio a relationship as well. You asked me earlier about how you measure the success and kind of the return on capital with this kind of model. If you just sort of run the numbers with a good relationship, it just compounds, I would say, by having more than one program with a strategic relationship like this. And I will also say that I mean, Kenneth and Catherine should chime in on this point. I do also think that as one is exploring other win-win risk-sharing kinds of arrangements, that's certainly, I think, really almost critical to really enable that too.
Yeah, maybe I could add to that, since Kush brought that up. So, first of all, if we're running a portfolio on behalf of a client, it allows us to take the resources that we've dedicated and apply them flexibly across the portfolio based on the immediate prioritization. So sometimes a given project may need a little bit more of a boost in terms of chemistry or not, and you can move scientists around. Same thing on the biology side. It also means your overall probability of success increases. And Kush had alluded to some different types of business models. So at Syngene, if we're working in the integrated space with our SynVent team, and SynVent is where we've hired a set of professional project leaders who have each one, most anyway, 20 plus years of experience in the industry, pharma, biotech. They effectively will write detailed project plans and then drive that execution collaboratively with the scientists in India where the execution takes place. In that model, we actually do have shared risk paradigms that we can talk to clients about. And so that also helps them to extend their research dollars farther, which in today's environment is really critical.
Thank you very much. I think this is probably the last question we'll have time for today. But this person mentions they saw an accelerator award page on the Syngene website and asks if we can please elaborate on it. How does it fit into the larger strategy of Syngene being an integrated innovation partner? Kenneth, would you like to take this one?
Sure, thank you. So over the 30 years that Syngene has been around, and we've been evolving the way that we engage with clients, one of the things that we've recognized, again, being more of a partner in collaboration and innovation with our clients is key. Not only helping them to make the best decisions that we can in terms of how they advance their programs, but how they're going to be able to, again, manage those compass points, including innovation, risk, cost. And in this particularly difficult time where many of our clients are struggling with funding, being more stepwise, we felt like it was a good time for us to step forward with an award offer where we will give our clients the opportunity, or potential new clients for Syngene, the opportunity to compete for 6 months of free services with the organization, a team of up to 5 FTEs, all inclusive. Just to help them push that project to the next stage. And hopefully we'll get to know each other and decide that working together is a good decision. But as you noted, there's full details of this on our website. The applications are being accepted right now. And if people are interested, I encourage you to please move forward to do that as quickly as possible. Or if you know organizations that you think would benefit, please let them know as quickly as possible. On Tuesday, October 21st, we'll be making the final decision at a live event at MassBio in Massachusetts, and then finalizing the award. So hopefully people will sign up and we'll be able to help folks do some cool science.
Wow, that is a fantastic opportunity. Thank you for that question to bring awareness to that amazing offer. So thanks for sharing that with us. We are coming up on our remaining minutes here, just a couple left. So I wanted to give each of you a chance to say any final thoughts before we close out the session for today. Kush, would you like to share anything final for our audience?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I would just thank you for including me and having me on this, and wonderful to join Kenneth and Catherine as well in this discussion. I would just say that the environment right now among pharma, biotech, and academic research and science is really screaming out for disruption in the models to advance an ever-increasing pool of tremendous ideas that have tremendous potential impact on patients, and how we advance that in a scalable way for the future. Of course, technology and AI is going to be part of the solution here for sure. It will be across the full spectrum, from discovery and understanding targets all the way through commercialization, but also it's how we work together and how we form partnerships, how we operate. And I think this is a model that certainly is intended to be for the times that we're in, intended to be part of that solution that brings us into this new era that we must be advancing towards as well. And so I'm really excited about seeing more of this across our industry, and because I think the potential is immense.
Thank you, Kush. Catherine, final thoughts for today.
Yeah, but very much echoing Kush's sentiments. I was actually at the LSX conference in Boston last week, and the reflection on the current times and funding challenges and how companies are trying to navigate that arena. Being able to operate in a capital efficient way, whether you are an academic partner, whether you're a biotech, whether you're a large pharma, trying to sort of drive capital efficiency into your P&L, or an investor looking to drive efficiency across your portfolio of companies. We're looking to really sort of position ourselves as an enabling partner to help drive innovation forward across that ecosystem, echoing the connector model that Kenneth mentioned earlier. And it's a very interesting time in terms of the evolution of the industry, as somebody that's been in the industry for over 25 years. And I think there is a real opportunity for a much more dynamic relationship to take innovation forward. I'll hand it over to Kenneth to offer up the final words.
Yes, sure. Thank you. So also, again, thank you very much for having us today and the opportunity to share our thoughts. It was really fun to be here. Building on what Kush and Catherine mentioned, there has been a continuous evolution in the industry of what we've been referring to as outsourcing. So I mentioned I started my career over 30 years ago. It was about in 2004 that I got involved in outsourcing to India and China for the first time. And that was around intermediates for a final drug candidate. But it was not very long after that I got involved in outsourcing fully integrated drug discovery projects, and eventually played a role in a group at Merck that was basically fully dedicated to outsource to India and China to develop drugs, or to discover drugs to go into development. And in the early days of that process, it was very much around technical execution. And it also included a fair amount of investment on the part of the client to make sure that the provider had the skills and the experience necessary to get the job done. And especially in the integrated discovery space, we spent a lot of time on the ground trying to make sure that that was going to be true. But while that was happening, many Chinese and Indian nationals were making their way to Europe and to the US, and they were completing their education, starting their careers, becoming involved in the pharma industry and getting that firsthand experience. But many of them have now repatriated back to their home countries and brought that experience with them. And what that's done for the industry authentically is that there is a tremendous amount of expertise to be accessed across Asia. So whether your preference is for India or China, and there's a variety of reasons why people might choose one or the other, whether your preference within India is for Syngene or one of our competitors, and we hope you choose us, but obviously you'll make the best choice you can. It's really about finding, again, is that right range of skills and experience that are that's going to help you get over the line as fast as possible and to the patient. And ultimately, I think everybody that's on this call has been in one way or another involved in trying to get treatments to the patient successfully. So hopefully that's a journey we'll be able to take together. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists, Kenneth Barr, Catherine Tucker, and Kush Parmar for your time and insights. And thank you for watching. As a reminder, a recording of this session will be available on demand within 24 hours, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you and have a great day.